With the sheer number of haunted places in the world, it doesn't seem fair that famous creepy sites, like Bran Castle in Transylvania, get all the attention. Our world is filled with mind-boggling, dangerous places that not only have a spooky past, but also pose a real threat to anyone brave enough to visit after dark. If you're a thrill seeker looking for a new adventure, or just curious about the dark side of our world, here are 15 dangerous places that you won't survive after dark. Number 15. Myrtle's Plantation, USA. Legend has it, the Myrtle's Plantation isn't just haunted. It's practically a ghostly hotel where the dead refuse to check out. Built on what is rumored to be an ancient Native American burial ground, this 18th century mansion has a history so dark, it makes horror movies look tame. They say at least 10 murders have taken place within its creaky walls, and the spirits of the past aren't exactly quiet about it. A former enslaved woman wearing a green turban is often seen wandering the property, her spectral presence enough to send shivers down the bravest spines. And then there's the mirror, a piece of furniture so cursed, it supposedly holds the trapped souls of Sarah Woodruff and her children, their ghostly figures lingering in its reflection. But the most chilling tale? William Winter, a man who was gunned down on the front porch, is said to eternally relive his tragic end. Visitors have reported seeing his spirit dragging itself up the stairs, collapsing at the 17th step, exactly where he took his last breath. Stay here after dark, and you might just find out if the legends are true or not, but we'll stay away from it. Number 14. The Toll Booth, Aberdeen, UK. If walls could talk, the Toll Booth would be screaming. Once a medieval prison with a reputation for misery, this sinister stone fortress housed Jacobite rebels in the 1700s, before becoming a holding cell for kidnapped children who were cruelly sold into slavery across the Atlantic. Stepping inside, the air itself feels heavy, as if the past refuses to let go. Those brave, or foolish, enough to visit after dark have reported hearing the unmistakable clatter of rusted chains and disembodied whispers echoing through the chambers. A ghostly white mist drifts through the hallways, appearing and vanishing in the blink of an eye. And then there's the most unnerving sensation. Many visitors have felt invisible hands tightening around their throats, as if the spirits of the wrongly imprisoned are still seeking justice. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain. Once the sun sets, the toll booth belongs to the dead, and we're not kidding. Number 13. Pluckley Village, Kent, UK. Some places earn their haunted reputations, but Pluckley, it practically invented ghost stories. Officially recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as England's most haunted village, this seemingly quiet countryside retreat is home to at least a dozen restless spirits, possibly more. At Fright Corner, yes, that's its real name, the ghost of a highwayman, brutally stabbed and pinned to a tree, still roams, forever reliving his gruesome fate. Venture into the graveyard after dark, and you might spot the infamous Red Lady, a tormented soul forever searching for her lost child. But the real nightmare fuel? The screaming man of the brickworks, whose agonized cries have been heard echoing through the village at night. Some say he was buried alive. Others claim his spirit refuses to rest. Either way, if you find yourself in Pluckley after dusk, don't be surprised if you leave with an unwanted ghostly companion. Number 12. Bhangar Fort, India. When a place comes with a government-issued warning forbidding people from staying after dark, you know it's not just a spooky rumor. Welcome to Bhangar Fort, the most haunted place in India, where even skeptics start believing in ghosts. The legend? A powerful sorcerer fell in love with the Princess of Bhangar and, in a twisted act of obsession, cursed the entire kingdom before his death. The result? Every single resident perished, and their spirits were doomed to haunt the ruins for eternity. The eeriest part? The surrounding village remains roofless, because every time someone dares to build one, it mysteriously collapses. Visitors often report an overwhelming feeling of dread, whispers in the wind, and shadowy figures lurking in the ruins. But those who ignore the warnings and stay past sunset, well, let's just say they've never been heard from again. Number 11. Highgate Cemetery, London, UK. If Gothic horror had a physical address, it would be Highgate Cemetery. This sprawling Victorian graveyard in North London is a breathtakingly eerie mix of beauty and terror. By day, it's an architectural wonder, with ivy-covered tombstones and grand mausoleums. But once the sun dips below the horizon, it becomes something else entirely. Stories of the Highgate vampire, a tall, dark figure with glowing red eyes, have been whispered since the 1970s, when a wave of bizarre encounters sparked a full-blown hysteria. Paranormal investigators, thrill-seekers, and even occultists flocked to the site, hoping to catch a glimpse of the supernatural. Many have reported cold spots, flickering lights, and ghostly apparitions drifting between the graves. The silence is deafening, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the crunch of footsteps that, chillingly, don't always belong to the living. Highgate is the kind of place where shadows move when they shouldn't, and if you're not careful, you might just become part of its legend. Number 10. Ancient Ram Inn, Gloucestershire, England. This palace isn't just haunted, it's a portal to something dark. Built in 1145, this medieval inn has a reputation that makes even hardened ghost hunters think twice. Whispers of child sacrifices, demonic rituals, and restless spirits swirl around its history. And it's not just superstition. Guests have reported being yanked from their beds, seeing shadow figures lurking in doorways, and hearing guttural growls that don't belong to anything human. The current owner swears that, on his first night, an invisible force grabbed him and hurled him across the room. Beneath the staircase, skeletal remains of children were found, fueling theories that this place is more than just haunted. Some call it cursed. Others believe it's a gateway to something worse. One thing is certain. No one walks out of the ancient Ram Inn the same as they walked in. If you stay the night, good luck sleeping. Number 9. The island of Daxa, Croatia. A picturesque island off the coast of Dubrovnik should be a dream destination. Daxa, it's a nightmare. After World War II, 48 accused Nazi sympathizers, among them Dubrovnik's mayor, were rounded up and executed. But the real horror wasn't the massacre itself. It was what came after. No one buried the bodies. They were left to rot, forgotten by time, until their bones crumbled into the earth. Decades passed, but the island remained empty. The locals avoided it, and fishermen refused to sail too close. They whispered of voices carried by the wind, of ghostly figures standing on the shore, watching. On stormy nights, some say you can hear moaning, deep, sorrowful sounds that seem to come from the very ground itself. The island has been up for sale multiple times, but no one dares to claim it. Maybe some places are meant to stay abandoned. Number 8. Hoia Baciu Forest, Romania. Hoia Baciu isn't just a haunted forest. It's a place that doesn't feel right on a primal level. The trees twist in ways that shouldn't be possible, their trunks bending unnaturally as if recoiling from something unseen. A perfect circle of barren earth sits in the middle, where nothing grows, no matter how much time passes. Legends say an entire village vanished here without a trace, swallowed by the forest itself. Paranormal investigators report electronics failing, sudden dizziness, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. Others have seen shadowy figures moving between the trees or floating lights that dart away when approached. Some have even walked in and lost hours of time, emerging disoriented with no memory of what happened. It's not just a ghost story, it's a place that defies explanation. If you enter Hoia Baciu, keep track of time. You might not get all of it back. Number 7. Mary King's Close, Edinburgh, UK. Beneath the lively streets of Edinburgh lies something forgotten, an underground labyrinth sealed off centuries ago. Mary King's Close was once packed with merchants and families, but when the plague swept through, the sick were left to die, locked inside as the city moved on above them. Today, those restless souls still make themselves known. Tourists report unseen hands tugging at their clothes, sudden chills, and overwhelming nausea that vanishes the moment they step outside. One of the most infamous spirits is a little girl named Annie, forever searching for her lost doll. Visitors leave toys for her, hoping she won't follow them home. Some guides have even been pelted with unseen objects mid-tour. And then there are the shadows, figures that stand just beyond the light watching. Mary King's Close may be buried, but it's far from empty. Number 6. Poinsett Bridge, Greenville, South Carolina. Poinsett Bridge has stood for 2 centuries, but not everyone who crosses it makes it to the other side. Built in 1820, it's the oldest bridge in South Carolina and easily the most haunted. Stories say a stonemason died during construction and was buried inside the bridge itself. Then, years later, a lynching happened nearby. Add a fatal car crash in the 1950s, and you've got a recipe for a restless stretch of road. At night, visitors report their cars refusing to start, headlights flickering out, and a strange floating light that moves toward them. But the worst part? The screaming. Blood-curdling, soul-piercing screams that come from nowhere, bouncing off the stone walls and disappearing into the darkness. Some have seen shadow figures standing at the entrance, waiting. If you ever visit Poinsett Bridge after dark, bring a friend. You don't want to be there alone. Number 5. Zunantunich, Belize. Zunantunich is an ancient Mayan city, but its most famous resident isn't a long-lost ruler, it's a ghost. The place is named after her, Zunantunich, or the Stone Woman. For centuries, locals have reported the same sight, a woman in white standing at the steps of El Castillo. Her piercing red eyes glow in the night, and she climbs the stairs before vanishing into the stone itself. No one knows exactly who she was. Some believe she was sacrificed in a bloody ritual, her soul forever bound to the ruins. Others think she was an elite noblewoman who betrayed and murdered. Whatever the truth, she hasn't left. Even archaeologists have reported hearing whispers in an ancient language, feeling unseen hands brush against them. The stairs she walks are open to visitors. If you're lucky or unlucky, you might see her yourself. Just don't follow her. Number 4. Screaming Tunnel, Niagara Falls. Tucked away near Niagara Falls, this eerie tunnel holds a chilling legend that refuses to fade with time. Over a century ago, a farmhouse stood near the tunnel's entrance, its walls concealing an unspeakable tragedy. One fateful night, a young girl engulfed in flames ran through the tunnel, her screams echoing into the darkness before she collapsed, leaving only whispers of her suffering behind. The cause of the fire? A mystery lost to time. But those who dare strike a match in the tunnel claim the air thickens, the temperature drops, and an unearthly scream rings out. Some say it's her, still searching for help that never came. Paranormal investigators, thrill seekers, and skeptics alike have ventured inside, only to flee in terror. The Screaming Tunnel isn't just a spooky tale, it's a challenge. Will you dare to light a match and see if the legend is real? Number 3. Changi Beach, Singapore. By day, Changi Beach is a serene retreat with golden sands and calm waters. But as night falls, it transforms into one of the most haunted places in Singapore. During World War II, this very shoreline became a killing ground for Chinese civilians, executed en masse by Japanese forces. The waves have long since washed away the blood, but the echoes of agony remain. Locals swear they've heard anguished cries carried on the sea breeze, and some have even spotted shadowy figures wandering the sand, their feet leaving no prints. The most terrifying encounters come from those who've seen deep pits appear overnight, graves that seem to reopen as if the souls buried within refuse to stay silent. Some visitors have even reported seeing headless apparitions in the moonlight. If you walk this beach after dark, keep your wits about you. You may not be alone. Number 2. Monte Cristo Homestead, New South Wales. Monte Cristo Homestead doesn't just haunt those who step inside, it lingers in their nightmares. This Victorian mansion, perched ominously in Junee, has a history soaked in sorrow. The original owner, Mrs. Crawley, withdrew from the world after her husband's death, confining herself inside for 23 years until she too passed away. But death wasn't the end. Visitors report feeling unseen hands pressing against their chests, an invisible force squeezing the breath from their lungs. Some leave in a panic, their faces drained of color, gasping as if escaping something unseen. Others have seen the spectral figure of Mrs. Crawley at the window, watching, waiting. In the dim candlelight of the doll room, antique eyes seem to follow intruders. And in the old servant quarters, the air grows unbearably heavy, filled with the whispers of those who suffered in silence. Go inside it, if you dare, but don't expect to leave it unchanged. Number 1. Forbidden City, Beijing. The Forbidden City, a masterpiece of Chinese imperial history, a symbol of power, a place of unimaginable beauty. But beneath its grandeur lies a sinister past. For centuries, palace intrigue led to untold bloodshed, with concubines and servants murdered in the shadows, their screams stifled behind silk-draped walls. Even today, long after the last emperor departed, visitors hear the faint sounds of wailing in the corridors, the rustling of unseen robes, the ghostly echoes of footsteps following close behind. Some say the spirits are trapped by the very architecture. The palace's high thresholds designed to keep ghosts out have instead locked them within. Photos reveal eerie figures lurking in the background, their expressions frozen in eternal torment. Guards on patrol after dark refuse to linger too long, whispering of glowing orbs, spectral figures, and whispers in ancient dialects. The palace may have been abandoned, but its ghosts never left. If you've enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.